Hello everyone, it's Melanie here with Vintage Hill Studio. Today I'm bringing you a heat embossed background Valentine, and this was a lot of fun to work on. Let me show you what it looks like. It turns out to be just gorgeous. So here are some of the tools that I'll be using for today's video tutorial, starting with this 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch heart die and the distress ink in fired brick and a little blending tool. So let's get started. You can see that this is just the perfect size for this background stamp. The background stamp is from Momenta. It is a firefly collection. It's just beautiful with bees and butterflies and flowers and a few vines. And then I took this kind of creamy looking mat here. It's 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And you can see that this clear background stamp is going to fit perfectly on there. This is such a beautiful stamp. I've been waiting to use it. This is the perfect time for that. Now I will be going from edge to edge, so I need to move my mat over and not use my magnet this week. This is the Mini Misty stamping platform, and it's magnetic on the back, which generally holds your mat or whatever in place when you're stamping. But again, in this case, I am just going to be stamping from edge to edge, so I'll use a little piece of tape on the back of my mat. And I'll stick that down right into the center of my Mini Misty. Okay, now you can see where I'll be able to go from edge to edge with my stamping. So I just close the door on my stamping platform, and then I'm bringing over my Versamark watermarks ink. Now this is a clear sticky ink. It lends itself very well to embossing, heat embossing. I'll use my powder tool. What the embossing powder tool does is it removes any oils or residual substances from your stamping surface before you stamp with your Versamark, because you only want your embossing powder to stick to the stamped image, not to any residue left over from the oils on your fingertips or anything like that. So that's why you want to use an embossing tool. Now you can barely see that. It just looks like a tone on tone at this point until you add your embossing powder. And I chose to use this champagne color by Recollections. I just get a little of that sprinkled on there, and you just move it around, and you'll see how it sticks to that sticky Versamark ink. Being careful not to get my fingers over the embossed areas, the powder embossed areas. Just add a little more powder here and there, and I will be ready to go. The next thing that I use is a Marvy heat tool. Now I've let this heat up over to the side there. Once it's good and hot, I bring it over, and you can see how this will melt the powder. This is magical. Every time I do this, I just love to see this process. You can tell when it's melted because it will become shiny and just slightly raised. This is a beautiful stamp. And I'm so happy with the outcome with the heat embossing here. All right, there we go. There is our background. And I am using a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base this week. And you can see how this is all going to come together. So now I want to take that heart and run it through my die cutting machine. I'm bringing over my Sizzix Big Shot here. I'll just run it through and cut the heart right out of the center of this background. So now I have my center cut heart piece and my background, and you can see these lay right together perfectly, not interrupting the pattern from that beautiful background stamp. And I wanted this to really stand out. I want you to be able to see the pattern as it goes across, even with the cutout heart, but I want it to stand out just a little bit, so I brought over my foam tape. And I will quickly get this put together with my foam tape right here. I'll get that all done off camera, peel off the backing, and it's ready to go on the front of our card. So using my grid mat lines to help me line this up perfectly so I can get this centered on the front of that little card. There we go. So it doesn't add much bulk, but it is just a little more dimension, popping that up off the top of our card. and the heart will sit right down nested into the background. But first, before I nest it in there, I want to bring over this distress ink, and I'm going to go around the edges a little more heavily than in the center. I'm trying to leave the center a little lighter just to give it a dimensional look, even though it is flat. By going a little heavier on the edges and around the top and leaving the center lighter, you're adding a little more interest to the heart. You can see how this blends very well right over this cardstock. Again, leaving the center a little lighter. Just visually, this adds some detail without adding any bulk or any other fancy stuff. Just a visual detail with the light center and the darker edges. There you go. Gorgeous. So I will get that put down in through the back, inserted into the center of the card here. It's kind of like an inlay process. I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive, and I can set it right down into that opening. And it is looking gorgeous. So now we have a little dimension and a little visual interest. And that is all I'm going to do to the card this week. So I take a little microfiber cloth here and just wipe off the excess from that embossed. It'll come right off of that champagne embossing. And there is a close-up look at my Valentine card for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you get inspired to look at some of your beautiful background stamps. They don't necessarily need to be Valentine's themed like this one is not, but it makes such a beautiful card. So I'm so happy you dropped by today. Thank you to all my followers. Welcome back. I'm so happy to see you again. And if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. I have a subscribe button in the right hand corner throughout my YouTube video. I also have a website at the end of the video, or there's a subscribe next to Vintage Hill Studio if you're looking from your mobile. Happy crafting, everyone!